When it comes to sales and being in sales, what does it mean the first person who talks loses? I'm Scott Sylvan Bell. I'm coming to you live from the North Shore of Oahu. I am at Waimea Bay on a perfect day to talk about sales and a perfect day to talk about business. Now, here's the thing. There's a couple of ways that this conversation could go down. So let's start with the first, somewhere in the middle of the presentation, and then we'll get to the end. So let's say you're meeting with a buyer and you sit down with them and say, hey, look, I see that you've got a widget or a gizmo and it's made through an oven. So what are the biggest challenges that you face when your widget or gizmo comes through the oven? Is it the temperature that it comes out? Is it damage to the widget or the gizmo as it comes out? Or is it shrinkage from your employees taking it? And so what you've done is, in essence, you've filled in the blank for the buyer. In essence, you've told the punchline to the buyer. And what you're telling them is like, hey, look, I'm just here to go at this at the bare minimum. Now, the best people in sales, the closers and performers, what they do is they ask the question that they need to, and then they're quiet, right? So in this instance, the first person who talks is going to lose information, meaning either the salesperson is going to gain some stuff or the buyer is going to gain some stuff. Either way, it's going to happen. Okay, so that's the first way. And the second way, old school sales training, old school sales teaching is going to tell you, here's what you do. You take a pen or you hold out your hand and you ask your closing question. Now, there's a million different closing questions. You know, you could ask them, so what's the next step? Are you prepared to move forward? Like, there's a million ways to do it. Not all of them are right. When it comes down to it, some of it's your personality, okay? So you could just say, I just need a credit card or a driver's license. You could play the Go Fetch a Rock game. Tons of different ways for you to do this. And so for you, if you ask that closing question, there is the potential of you over-talking, and you could talk yourself right out of the deal. And so it's not necessarily that the buyer is going to lose. It could very well be that you are going to lose. You're going to say, with your permission, let's go ahead and get you started. Here's the pen. You're really going to like the product. Oh, by the way, I got kids playing soccer this weekend. And you just go off on a strange tangent, okay? And that way you lose. I have a belief in the third way that you should never call a win for a buyer a loss. So if I'm sitting and I'm closing you and I say, here's my pen, closing question, whatever it may be, with your permission, let's move forward, and I consider that a loss for you, that's a negative way to look at your buyer. It should always be that that buyer, from your product, your service, whatever you offer, is going to win from using it, okay? So I have a different take on this. I have a different belief because I don't ever think that you should consider anything that you have to offer for your buyer a loss, okay? So option one, you talk through your question. Option two, you talk through the close. Option three, really, it should be the first person who asks the best question in sales wins and gets the win. Not that your buyer is going to lose from doing business with you. That's kind of a ridiculous way from looking at it, because you're starting off on a negative connotation. I want to say conversation. That wasn't the word. A negative connotation, okay? Your buyer should win when they make a purchase from you. It should never be considered a loss, okay? So when it comes to closing, the first person who talks, if it's you, you have the potential of losing. You have the potential of losing the deal. If it's them, they have the potential of winning. Now, you got one thing to do from here, just one thing. Find the subscribe button and click on it. Every time I send out a video, you'll get an update that says, Scott Bell Consultant sent out a video. You should check it out, which you should. We'll see you soon. Aloha.